One thing that I have to consider is that Ava DuVernay, much like us, first read Queen Sugar and had to make sense of it. The difference is that the way that she made sense of the novel manifested itself into an entire creative work where she reimagined some possibilities and some alternatives to the character that for the characters that kind of like when it plays out on screen, it just we get so involved and it just man, it just we get caught up. We get caught up. But prior to being a consumer, prior to being a creator, she was a consumer of this art form. And we are just so grateful for Queen Natalie Bazile, who is the OG that's responsible for everything that came out of the one book. All of these characters, all the ways that they've been brought to life on screen through the different actors and actresses. Just it's been quite the ride. But I think it's really interesting to kind of walk with Ava DuVernay on the ways that she processed the novel and the ways that she kind of flipped and changed and picked and chose the pieces of the work, um, the written work, to kind of like bring to life on screen. Uh, and maybe in some ways we can talk about who her favorites might have been. Um, in terms of the ways that she chose to redeem certain characters or develop others. Um, so, an example of that is the fact that there were two characters, namely Darla, who's Ralph Angel's baby mama, and Davis, who is Charlie's now ex-husband, um, who were deceased at the beginning of the novel. Both Davis and Darla were they had actually passed away when we're reading the novel. So I mean we allude to their characters and we have like a vague idea of what has happened with them as told by other people, but we don't get to see them in action. So that's kind of interesting. And yeah, Davis sort of morphs into a bad guy who may have been a loving husband. It sounds like Charlie loved him. And I think sometimes our memory plays a trick on us. We can remember things in better or worse ways than they actually happened in real life, depending on our feelings. But yeah, when Davis is brought back to life, Davis reincarnated is like scumbag prototype. Like he is the dirtbag dad. Actually, no, I can't take that away from him. He seems to be a pretty decent dad to Micah, in spite of the fact that he can't be a good husband to Charlie. And of course, Micah resents him for the way that he treats his mother, but it's undeniable that he loves his kid, that he cares for his kid, provides for his kid, and will, stop at nothing to redeem himself in his child's eyes and even kind of make it right with Charlie in the end. Because it seems like redemption is a possibility in spite of the things that he got wrong as a husband. And that's not to say that they'll get back together. I hope they never do. I hope she never takes him back ever, because I love Remy so much. But I think that there is a way that they can reconcile and co-parent without hating each other, and I think that they're on that path. Also, Darla, you know, I was there's something about Bianca Lawson, and I don't know if this is the way that she's acting in this particular show or if this is just her general disposition, but like I feel like she has like a very solemn disposition that like makes me sad for her. And she's not even trying to be pitiful. She just like is, like so she was like tugging at my heartstrings in each scene that she appeared in, looking all sad with those eyes and like kind of like cowering, like like her mannerisms. It's like she's making herself small. I don't know if it's because of the people around her or because of the things that are inside of her, but she's like playing very small, and then she just goes and like deals this blow and tells us that Blue may not be our kid, and it's just so crazy. Like, why do we have to go through this? Like, but I think the cool thing is that we get to work through some of the possibilities of the novel, some of the things that came up in the novel but weren't quite fleshed out. So, um, something that we see in conversations that we get to have and like deal with and really like work through are things like police brutality, and the fact that Charlie's a black mom raising a black son in the show, whereas in the book she's got a daughter. So those are different conversations, and we get around to police brutality, but Ralph Angel is the one who's confronted with the police in the novel, and that is how he meets his fateful end. Um, and I think that conversation doesn't happen in the novel because of the ways that it was it happened so quickly, one. And then in a sense, I personally felt like something was gonna happen to that child because he was doing too much. I mean, like stealing stuff and knocking over old women, and just just being terrible, like terrible. Ralph Angel in the novel, Queen Natalie's Ralph Angel was the worst, like even worse than that. Um, so yes, police brutality is something that we contend with in a different way, and with a character that we love. So we get more incensed about it, and we have to deal with the trauma, and it lingers, and it's not something that gets resolved easily, and it's the way that we experience that in real life, which I appreciate. Those conversations that have come from that happening in the show. Um, we of course deal with family and reconciliation and health. Um, we deal with old age, and we deal with inheritance. We deal with toxic masculinity and the ways that can manifest itself in intimate relationships, or just the relationship between a man and any person that he encounters in his life. I feel like Ralph Angel is a better person in the show than he is in the book. But that thing around masculinity and what it means to be a man, and what it means to provide for one's family, and just I've never been a man, so I don't understand what that feels like. Uh, but the ways that Ralph Angel has to explore um, his own path and his journey as far as like a rite of passage and coming of age and being a father to a young man who's watching him, and trying to emulate him and make him happy and please him is it's heavy, it's deep. Like these are like critical conversations that I think both the author Natalie Bazile and the creator of the show Ava DuVernay do a really good job of presenting to us in order to have it out there. I mean, it's out there. We have to make sense of it, and I think that Ava DuVernay in fleshing out the characters and developing their storylines kind of like helps us through those conversations in a sense, and like in the ways that the characters get brought to life gives us options for the ways that we deal with it in terms of identifying with the viewpoints of particular characters who are coming from different places. Like me personally, I'm always with Nova on a lot of things, and I can see the ways that like Nova can be so many things to so many people as far as her service to the community and her role in the family, but there's a certain level of like there's a wall with Nova that we can't get past in order to understand her personally. Like I feel like Nova's the helper that can't be helped. Like she's the server that can't be served. She wants to do it all for everyone, but allows very little to be done for her. Like I feel like she's got a blend of sensitivity and strength that have not like it's it's difficult to have all of that in a single person because the way that that plays out, it gets complicated, you know, where it's like, man, you know, she feels things so deeply, but at the same time can be very closed off. So that's, I just, I can understand that, and I think it's cool to see that. And then in Charlie, I feel like we the way that Charlie was cast was perfect. Like she's exactly who I imagined her to be, as far as like just type A, like on it, on top of things, and I think that over time, like as Charlie has let her guard down and has allowed herself to fall apart more, um, she's like that's how she's growing. Like the ways that she's coming undone or becoming undone or like falling apart and unraveling before our eyes, um, is at the same time the very reason that she's been able to like build herself up and get to where she is. So that's been great. And then with Ralph Angel, as far as his journey, uh, it's been kind of cool to see him lighten up in a sense and admit that like he doesn't have it all figured out and like he needs the help and support of the people around him. Like none of them can do it on their own, and that's what I appreciate because like they've always needed each other. They've just one on the one hand they haven't known that and have had to come to realize that, or like they didn't want to have to need other people. But like it's just an excellent book, and I'm just so happy to be able to continue to walk with these characters. I'm so interested to see some of the ways that the show and its trajectory will kind of like merge in order to end in the ways that the story did, because in the beginning there were like omissions and things that were happening in the show that were very, very different from what happened in the book. And that sort of made me think that the story was going to be entirely different. But although the starts and the ways that things began have been quite different from the novel, it seems like we're headed in the direction of like more and more as the story goes on and unfolds. There are things from the novel that are being incorporated continuously into the storyline. So we'll see how it all ends, but it's been quite the ride.